Now, my friends ask me all the time what this machine is that sits in between the two doors of my shop. And it is a tire changer. It's really nothing fancy. It's an old Coates. It's a 5030 model. And I bought this because I found myself one summer changing a lot of tires. And it just seemed like every year I was changing tires and buying different trailers or changing out boat trailers or changing car tires or buying vehicles or friends' vehicles, and it just kind of got ridiculous. And I said, I'm spending an awful lot of money having somebody else change the tires when I could do it myself. Now, you can certainly change your tires the old school method, use a couple of long pry bars, pry off the rubber and put a new one on, but quite frankly, when you have to break the beads and you're fighting it, and this is pretty much back-breaking work, I didn't want to do that. Now, Harbor Freight sells a little tire changer, and people have really good success with it. But quite frankly, I just thought that maybe I wanted something a little bit bigger and something that would do a little better job. Then along came Kenny. Now, I don't know who wrote Kenny on the side of this. Maybe somebody named Kenny. But I have nicknamed this tire machine Kenny. Now, Kenny's old and it's very well used, and quite frankly, it's a little bit worn out. In fact, the air you hear in the background is some of the hose fittings are leaking. It really needs cleaned up, and probably all of the rubber hoses need replaced. However, it still works really well, and for a home shop, it's actually really nice. Now, these things don't cost a lot of money if you get on Craigslist. You can pretty much buy one anywhere between $200 and $400 if you look and shop around, and you're willing to buy something a little bit older that's tethered, but they're really not that hard to work on either. Now, one thing I noticed is over the years, Coates really didn't change the model that much. They kind of added some features and made some minor changes, but the early models were pretty much all the same. And they had 3 pedals in the front, and then on the side there was a pedal in the back. Now, the pedals in the front work kind of like this. This particular pedal opens and closes the rim clamps. So if I press on it, you can see it opened the rim clamps, and you hit the pedal one more time, and it'll close the rim clamps to tighten down on a rim. Now the center pedal, and you can see how much this machine has actually been used. The pedal's actually worn down on the corner. But what the center pedal does is it operates the bead breaker. This over here is a bead breaker. And when we press that pedal down, it brings a bead breaker in. Now the pedal all the way to the right, it rotates the table. So when you press it, that's pretty much all that pedal does. Now this pedal down here on the side, it does 2 functions. If you press it halfway down, it lets air out of a little air hose right here. Okay? And if you press it all the way down, it sets the bead. Basically what that means is it's going to put a blast of air out of these little ports, and it'll set the tire bead. And it's a lot of air. Now what I'd like to do now is just show you how Kenny changes the tire, and it's actually not too difficult. You need to break the bead first, and breaking the bead means you're going to pull the rubber away from the rim. Getting that off that rim is called breaking the bead, and sometimes it can be really difficult. Now with Kenny, it's pretty simple. You just line the shovel up, make sure you pull the valve stem out, and then you give the center pedal a press, and it'll pull this right off the rim. Now once you've broken both sides of the bead, you're going to take the tire, lay it right on the table, just like this, and you're going to press the pedal on the left, which is going to bring those clamps out and lock onto this rim. Now the tire is in there really good, and the rim is being clamped on, and it's not going to go anywhere, which is what you want. Now this part of the machine, a lot of people like to refer to as the duck, and that's because if you're looking at it from the top down and you have any kind of imagination, this is the duck head, this is the duck beak, and this is the duck tail. Now pretty much all these Coates machines have the same shaped foot, and you're going to see why it actually works really well. You're going to line it up to the rim, and then you're going to pull it down and lock it in place. So now looking at the back side of the duck, you can see it's laying right on the rim. The bill is on this side of the rim, and then there's a locking lever here that locks it in place. So we've got it locked down. That's going to hold it there. Now another very important step is to use some type of lubrication. They actually make a tire lubrication, but quite honestly I just use a little bit of water and just soap. And I haven't had a problem with that. That's how I like to do it. And you just want to basically spray all around the tire here. Just give it a little bit of lubrication so the tools can work. Now to get the tire off the rim, it's pretty simple at this point. You just take your tire pry bar and you work it down in this gap over here, and you lay the rod on top of the duck bill, and you pull it back like so, and then you just press the pedal that rotates the tire. Now that's the easy part because you got the top already off the rim, so now we just got to get the bottom of the tire off the rim. Now getting to the other side of the tire can somewhat be tricky, but quite honestly, if you do it a few times, it's not terrible. You're going to take your pry bar and you're going to reach down inside the tire, and you're going to find the back side of the lip on the other side of the tire, and you're going to pry up right on the duck bill again, press the pedal again. Now you can see I have the bottom of the pry bar coming out the bottom of the tire, and that's quite okay. When we press the pedal here, it should work it right off. There you have it. The tire is completely off the rim at this point. So now at this point, you just want to unlock the lever, have to pull the foot up, swing the arm away, and the tire is free from the rim, and you're ready to put a tire back on the rim. Now putting the tire back on the rim is pretty much just as easy as taking it off. You want to sit your tire kind of like so. Take your arm, swing it back around. You're going to drop your duck right on the edge of the rim like you did before. Lock it in place. Give it a little bit of a shove. And press the pedal that rotates the table. As you can see, we got the bottom side of the bead already on the rim. Now setting the top bead is pretty much just like setting the bottom bead. You want to kind of work it under here. You also want to keep your fingers clear of this bead when you're working the pedal because you don't want any broken fingers. But more importantly, you want to make sure that the back side of the tire is on the duck tail and the front side of the tire is under the duck's head. Press the pedal, and sometimes you got to work with it a little bit, especially since it's all lubed up with the soap, but I don't expect we'll have any issues here. And there you have it, the tire is on the rim. Now we just need to set the beads and put air in it. Now I find this the trickiest part. Sometimes you have to kind of work with it because you really need a good seal around this bead. You also need to make sure that it's lubricated on both sides. It just helps set the bead. But basically you want to take your air nozzle. Again, you're leaving the valve stem out, so you can just put your air nozzle on it. And you're going to press the pedal all the way to the floor, which is going to bead blast it. And again, keep your fingers away from the bead because you don't want them crushed. Press it all the way to the floor and you hope it sets it. Now I had to shut the video off because the air compressor came on. It's really loud and I didn't want to annoy you, but basically there was a second loud pop and that was the other bead setting on the other side. And at this point the tire is full of air. You need to remove the chuck from the valve. The problem is it's full of air, but the cool thing is the Coates here has a little release valve and you just press this, which releases all of the air in the tire only. And then when the air is out, you can pull the chuck off. I think that's probably good enough. We'll pull the chuck out. Let the rest of it out, and you need to put your valve stem back in the stem. So your valve stems look like this. I have a little tool that lets you put it in. Drop it in like so. Tighten it up. Now after you have your chuck back on the valve and the valve stem is in the valve, go ahead and press that pedal on the floor halfway down. That's going to put air in the tire. Luckily Kenny has a gauge right on the side, but it only works when you let your foot off the pedal. And right now we have right about 30 pounds of pressure, and I think that's going to be good enough for this demonstration. So at this point the tire is pretty much done. You're just going to press the pedal here on the left to release the claws that are holding the rim, and you're pretty much ready to use this tire unless you want to balance it. Now there are a couple of options on balancing. We're not going to get into those, but you could use some balancing beads such as these, or we can use Kenny's cousin, which you'll see in an upcoming video, this Coates 1001 direct drive wheel balancer. So as you can see, my garage is full of a bunch of upcoming projects. There's stuff being painted, there's stuff on the ground, there's hydraulics and all kinds of junk. We got some cool videos coming up this summer, so if you like do-it-yourself type videos, please like and subscribe. Take a look at some of my other videos. You might find something you yourself might want to build.